G'day and welcome. Thanks for coming along, Megan. Great to have you on a little episode here today. We're going to cover some things around governance, obviously, because you sit at the head of the Governance Institute. And, a lot of people might think, well, governance, what do we even need this for? But I see there's a lot of things that, in my observation and the interactions we have with people, I don't think people quite get the implications of what good governance is and how far-reaching it is. So I'm going to delve in a couple of areas with you and we'll explore that together if you're all right for that.
Great, thanks for having me.
Cool, thank you. So the first area is really around the whole role of management, the whole role of leadership. We as leaders and managers have grown up in an environment, a situation where most of our team members are within sort of kind of arm's reach, or at least they're on a different floor, like walk into their office or something to that effect. We may have had offshore staff or whatever not, but we're now moving into a situation where, a lot of people are either working from home or working remotely, and most likely will continue to do so for an extended period of time or possibly forever. So we have less contact with the team, we have less visibility of what they're actually doing. How do we become more effective as leaders and managers in this situation?
So it's really interesting. It's just a fascinating point, and probably the only two things that will last longer than COVID itself will be the litigation and the thesis writing afterwards around all of these issues. So, I guess to start off with, I'd say I certainly don't have all of the answers, but I definitely have some observations. And one of the observations that I'd make is that sophisticated managers, more mature managers in their management style, have been leaning towards using different frameworks for understanding productivity for a long time anyway. So as much as leaders talk about, walking the shop floor, and there is an element in that is really important. So you can garner an element of productivity and culture from walking the shop floor. But so much more now, we have tools and data at our fingertips to be able to measure productivity and outcome. And we know that more sophisticated managers are managing outcomes and outputs, not the number of hours that your bum is in a chair or that a staff member's bum is in a chair. So I can have a staff member attend 10 meetings but not be effective at any of those meetings, or I can have a staff member that only attends 1 out of 10 meetings and makes a really valuable contribution that changes the course of that meeting and changes the outcome for the business. So productivity really needs to be measured in the outcomes that it achieves, and we now have the data and tools to be able to do that. So we can see, for example, everything. You can test the products, you can test the outputs of particular teams in terms of the work that they're producing. So I think that sophisticated managers have been looking at a lot more than just hours and visibility. That presenteeism argument has really reduced significantly I think the importance that it lays in most managers' minds. And I think that really sophisticated management was starting to see this well before COVID, and it's just been a maturation once again of that post-COVID. So there's definitely an element to that. And the other element that goes side by side with that, and that is the element of trust and the trust that you have in your employees. I was in fact just having a discussion just prior to coming onto this call, and someone said, how do you really know that the staff aren't just mucking around and, lazing about and being at home, not doing too much work? And the answer is because if they were if it was the type of person that was inclined to do those things, they would have been doing them in the office anyway. And I would have seen it, and I would have seen it not just because I'm walking past and saw that they were on Facebook or playing solitaire or whatever people do in those situations, in the past, particularly where people were holed up in offices. Remember, we've come to a situation over the last couple of decades where open plan meant that people were a lot more visible. Prior to that, we had people working in cubicles or offices where you really had no idea what they were doing. It strikes me as extraordinary that some, senior managers, CEOs and the like talk about, I've got to be, the staff got to be in the office, they've got to be visible. What CEO's in the office 5 days a week? You wouldn't be doing your job if you were sitting at your desk in the office 5 days a week. You know, I'm on the road usually a couple of days a week. I was traveling a couple of days a week. So
Yes.
the illusion that somehow I had my finger on the pulse because I was in the office without using these additional tools to be able to measure the productivity of the staff and to measure the outcomes of what the staff are doing, engagement tools, measuring culture, all of these things, I think that was pretty illusionary in the past. And I think we shouldn't be too tied to it. I feel pretty comfortable that I trust my staff because we have a mature relationship with our staff. They know that I'm looking at the right things. I don't care if they take off 2 hours in the middle of the day to go to the gym because I know that they will get the job done to the expected standard. And if they don't, then there'll be a pretty mature conversation around what was preventing that productivity and what we can do to mitigate that trend.
So we are actually in the future going to be hiring for people that are there because they want to be doing the right thing. In other words, they actually possess a reasonably high level of emotional intelligence.
Absolutely. And I think that, you see in any business, the people and the managers that carry that degree of emotional intelligence and the capability to have those really nuanced conversations and difficult conversations at times. They are the managers that end up being more successful in businesses. They are the managers that rise like the cream to the top of the pile. So I don't think there's actually anything much new in that. I think that we're just appreciating it a lot more.